Most people stop asking why somewhere around the age of 10, not because they run out of curiosity, but because somebody, a teacher, a parent, a boss, got tired of answering and made them feel stupid for asking. That's the real tragedy. It's not that people lose curiosity, it's that curiosity gets punished out of them. Think about it, a child asks, why is the sky blue, and gets a half answer, or worse, because it just is. That's the moment wonder starts dying. This keynote is shocking because it flips the usual story. We assume smart people are born knowing more. They're not. They just never let anyone shame them into silence. They kept asking the annoying question in the room full of adults who thought they already knew everything. Real discovery has never come from the person who nodded along. It's come from the one who raised their hand and said, wait, that doesn't make sense to me, explain it again. That takes nerve, because looking confused in public feels like a small death. But every major breakthrough in human history started with someone willing to look foolish for 5 more minutes than everyone else was willing to. The scientist worth talking about isn't the one with the most answers. It's the one who refused to let a question die just because it was inconvenient, embarrassing, or unpopular to keep asking. Understanding is not the same as knowing a name. Here's something that should genuinely disturb you. You can know the name of a thing and understand absolutely nothing about it. You can call a bird a sparrow in 6 languages and still know nothing real about that bird, what it eats, how it flies, why it sings at that pitch. Naming is not knowing. This is the trick school plays on almost everyone. It rewards memorized vocabulary and mistakes it for comprehension. A person who can recite a definition word for word often collapses the second you ask, okay, but why does that happen? That collapse is the whole test. If you can't rebuild an idea from scratch, in your own simple words using an example a child could follow, you didn't understand it, you just borrowed it. This matters far beyond classrooms. It's why so many experts sound impressive and still can't solve a real problem in front of them. It's why jargon survives. It hides the gap between sounding smart and being useful. The real move is almost embarrassingly simple. Take the fanciest idea you know and try explaining it without a single technical word. If you can't, you've found the exact edge of your own understanding, and that edge is the most valuable, most honest thing you'll find all day. Doubt is not weakness, it's the engine of discovery. We've been sold a lie that confidence looks like certainty. It doesn't. Certainty is often just laziness wearing a suit. The people who actually move human knowledge forward live in a permanent, uncomfortable state of, I'm not sure yet. That discomfort is not a flaw in their thinking. It is their thinking. Doubt keeps a mind honest. It's the built-in alarm system that stops you from confusing what you've been told with what's actually true. Here's the shocking part. The most reliable people you'll ever meet are usually the ones most willing to say, I don't know out loud, without flinching, without shame. Meanwhile, the most dangerous people are the ones who never doubt anything, not their leaders, not their old textbooks, not their own gut. Doubt isn't the opposite of knowledge. It's the doorway to it. Every real answer worth having was born from someone refusing to accept the first explanation handed to them. This is uncomfortable because our culture worships certainty, the confident voice, the bold claim, the person who just knows. But strip away the performance and you'll find that the strongest minds are quietly holding every idea, even their own favorite ones, a little loosely, ready to drop them the moment better evidence walks in the door. Play like nobody's watching. Genius hides in playfulness. Nobody tells you this, but some of the biggest breakthroughs in history happened because someone was messing around, not because they were trying to save the world. Seriousness is overrated. Deadly seriousness, in fact, often kills creativity before it has a chance to breathe. There's something almost rebellious about doing something just because it's fun. With zero pressure attached, no committee watching, no grant application due. That relaxed state is exactly when the mind makes its strangest, most useful connections, the ones it could never force out under pressure. This is shocking because we've built entire systems, schools, careers, institutions, around the opposite belief that only hard, joyless discipline produces results. But watch closely and you'll notice the pattern everywhere. The side project nobody asked for turns into the discovery that mattered. The doodle in the margin becomes the diagram that explains everything. Play removes the fear of being wrong, and fear is the single biggest killer of original thought. When you're playing, you're not protecting an image or a reputation, you're just following what's interesting wherever it leads without asking permission first. That freedom is rare and it's precious, and almost every adult has been trained out of it. Reclaiming it isn't childish. It might be the most serious decision you ever make. Trust your own eyes, not someone else's authority. Here's an uncomfortable question. How much of what you believe did you actually verify yourself, and how much did you just accept because someone with a title said it confidently? Most people never check. They outsource their entire understanding of reality to whoever sounded most certain in the room. That's not learning, that's borrowing someone else's opinion and calling it your own knowledge. Real understanding demands something braver, going and looking for yourself, even when it's slower, even when it's harder, even when the expert in the room seems annoyed that you're checking their work. Authority should never be the final word, it should be the starting point for your own investigation. This is shocking because it challenges something deeply built into how we're raised. Respect the expert, don't question the textbook, trust the institution. But institutions are made of people, and people are wrong constantly, not out of malice, but because being wrong is the default state of anyone working at the edge of what's known. The people who've actually changed things weren't the ones who trusted loudest. They were the ones who quietly double-checked, ran the numbers themselves, watched the experiment with their own eyes instead of reading the summary. Nobody's title makes them immune to error. Not one person's. The joy of finding out is the only prize worth chasing. Strip away the medals, the applause, the headlines, and what's left when someone finally solves the puzzle they've been chasing for years? Just quiet, private joy. That's it. That's the whole reward, and it turns out to be enough. This is the most shocking keynote of all, because our entire culture is built on the opposite idea, that the finish line matters more than the running, that recognition is the point, that nothing counts unless someone else claps for it. But watch anyone who's truly obsessed with figuring something out, and you'll notice they'd keep doing it even if no one ever found out. The prize was never the trophy. It was the moment the pieces clicked into place at 2 in the morning with nobody else awake to see it. That kind of joy can't be faked, can't be bought, and can't be taken away once you've felt it, because it doesn't depend on anyone's approval. Chasing applause makes you fragile. Chasing understanding makes you unstoppable, because the reward is built into the process itself. If you find something that gives you that late night, nobody's watching kind of joy, you've found something worth an entire life. Everything else, the titles, the praise, the recognition, is just noise around the real prize, which was never for sale in the first place. What if I told you that the smartest person in any room is usually the one who understands the least and knows it? Sit with that for a second, because it sounds backwards. We've been trained since childhood to believe that knowing more makes you powerful, that having the answer is the whole game. But I want to tell you about a different kind of mind. Not one that collected answers like trophies on a shelf, but one that collected questions, hoarded them, protected them, refused to let anyone talk him out of asking one more. Picture a kid lying on his back watching ants carry crumbs across a sidewalk, and instead of walking away bored after 10 seconds like everyone else, he stays for an hour. Not because someone assigned it, because he genuinely needs to know how they're talking to each other. That's not childish. That's the rarest kind of seriousness there is, the seriousness of pure attention, given freely, with nothing to prove and no one to impress. Somewhere along the way, most of us get talked out of that. A teacher sighs when we ask the 5th question in a row. A parent says, just because, instead of explaining. And slowly we learn the terrible lesson that curiosity is inconvenient. We learn to nod along instead of raising our hand. We learn to fake understanding, rather than risk looking confused in front of people who seem so certain. But here's what nobody tells you. The people who actually change things never learned that lesson. Or they learned it and rejected it anyway. They kept asking the dumb question after everyone else had moved on to pretending they understood. They looked at the equation everyone else had memorized and said, wait, where did this actually come from? Show me. Don't tell me the name of the law. Show me why it's true, from the ground up, using nothing but logic and patience. That's the whole secret, and it's almost insultingly simple. Understanding beats memorizing, every single time. You can know 10,000 facts and still be lost the moment reality throws you something the textbook didn't cover. But if you understand how the pieces actually fit together, really understand, not just recite, you can rebuild the answer from scratch, even in a situation nobody warned you about. That's not intelligence in the way we usually mean it. That's just refusing to fake it. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Doubt was never his enemy. Doubt was the tool. While everyone else clung to certainty like it was armor, he treated, "I don't know," as the most honest sentence in the English language, and he said it constantly, without embarrassment, because pretending to know is how bad ideas survive long past their expiration date. The people most dangerous to real progress were never the ones who doubted too much. They were the ones who never doubted at all. He played, that's not a metaphor, he genuinely, unapologetically played with ideas the way a kid plays with a puzzle box, turning it over just to see what happens, with zero pressure attached to the outcome. No committee to please, no reputation to protect. And it was in that loose, playful, low-stakes space, not in the grinding, deadline-driven, high-stakes one, that the strangest, most original insights kept showing up uninvited. Seriousness, it turns out, is often the enemy of discovery, not the ally we assume it to be. And he trusted his own eyes over anyone's title. Authority was a starting point, never a finish line. If the expert in the room said something didn't add up, that wasn't the end of the conversation. It was an invitation to go check for himself, however long it took. However annoyed people got watching him double-check what they'd already decided was settled. But strip all of that away. The questions, the doubt, the playfulness, the refusal to bow to authority, and what's actually left underneath, just joy. Plain, private, unglamorous joy. The kind that happens at 2 in the morning when nobody's watching and the pieces finally click. Not applause, not medals, not headlines, just the quiet, electric feeling of finally seeing how something works. That feeling never needed an audience, it was never for sale, and it was, in the end, the only reward that ever actually mattered. So here's the real question this leaves you with. When was the last time you let yourself ask why without apologizing for it? When was the last time you said, "I don't know" out loud and felt no shame in it at all? When was the last time you played with an idea just because it was interesting, with no goal attached? Because that restless refusal to stop asking, that's not a personality quirk. That's the entire engine behind every real discovery humanity has ever made. And it's still available to you right now, exactly as it always was. Nobody revoked your license to be curious. You just have to pick the habit back up. In the end, this was never really about equations, laboratories, or discoveries with fancy names attached to them. It was about a much simpler, much harder habit, refusing to let the world talk you out of wondering. Every question you were ever told to stop asking is still sitting there unanswered, waiting for someone stubborn enough to pick it back up. That someone can be you. Not because you're the smartest person in the room, but because you're willing to be the most curious one in it. That's the whole trick. That's the whole legacy. Ask why, then ask why again. Never stop. What if the smartest person you've ever met wasn't the one with the most answers, but the one who never ever stopped asking why? Not why in a classroom, forced and bored. Why at 2 in the morning, alone, because sleep felt less important than understanding? Why on a sidewalk, watching ants for an hour like it was the most important meeting of the day? Why in front of experts, in front of professors, in front of people who'd built entire careers on being right, because being embarrassed for 5 more minutes was always worth it if it meant actually understanding instead of just pretending to? What if doubt wasn't weakness at all? What if "I don't know" was actually the most powerful sentence a human being could say out loud? What if the biggest breakthroughs in history didn't come from the most serious people in the room, but from the ones who were just playing, just messing around, just following what was interesting with zero fear of looking foolish? Here's what you're about to hear isn't a history lesson. It's a challenge. Because somewhere between childhood and now, someone convinced you to stop asking, to nod along, to fake understanding instead of risking one more embarrassing question. Today we're taking that permission back. Stay with me, because by the end of this you won't just admire this kind of mind, you'll want it back for yourself.